BSC Expo 2019, Friday, nearly lunchtime. I'm joined by Marc Shipman-Mueller from ARRI. Now you're concerned with camera systems, and walking up there I could tell you're actually a bit of a camera geek as well, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So what is intriguing me at the moment is that what we saw when we did interviews at Cinec was that the lens manufacturers are really keen to bring full frame lenses to market, anamorphics, primes, whatever, or spherical. And I think that's obviously they're doing that because there's a demand. So is the demand for large format like the Alexa LF and the 65? You know, I mean, those aren't thought of now as unusual cameras to use, are they?
I think the demand is increasing. I think in the long term, though, we're going to keep Super 35 as well as large format as individual formats. I don't think it's all going to go large format. Even though I think we haven't seen, I think we're going to see more and more demand for large format. What I'm experiencing in the field now is people are trying to wrap their minds around what does it really mean? What is my large format lens? What's my Super 35 lens on the large format? What's the angle of view there? What does that mean for how close I can get the camera? And I've seen a lot of cinematographers, we talk about this, but once they get their hands on the camera, they play with it, they go, oh yeah, of course it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the cinematographer, they're very practical people. You need to give them the camera, give them a lens, then they totally understand it. So I think that's a slow process, and everybody who's shot with the Alexa LF, for instance, they love the images, and they don't want to go back.
Right, that's the thing.
Yesterday I was talking to a DP who was shooting a Netflix television series here in London, and that person was saying, yes, I love the LF, but I wasn't sure if I liked it, but then I went back and I shot a Super 35 show and something was missing.
Right.
Couldn't really tell what it was.
I was going to say, I didn't know.
No, but something was missing. That was that large format thing was missing.
Yeah.
So I think people are falling in love with it. Now the thing about the lenses is a large format lens you can use very happily on a large format camera, but also on a Super 35 camera. So the lens manufacturers have it easy.
True, yes. Yeah, makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Do you think it's an aesthetic choice, isn't it? I mean, how much is dictated by practicalities, though? I mean, it's, you know, from the point of view of production costs, large format is possibly a little bit of a luxury at the moment. But then with the Post Technology Alliance wanting people to go, you know, funneling people towards
I think those costs are coming down, and you know, and even with the Alexa LF, you can actually use Super 35 lenses to shoot a Netflix 4K movie with it.
Yes.
There's a sensor format for that in the camera, and then you use the regular Super 35 lenses. And a lot of people have done this. You know, we now have the signature primes out, and they're very, very popular. Yeah. But we didn't have them when the camera was out already. So the first couple of months of the camera being out there, everybody shot with Super 35 lenses or large format PL mount lenses, and the stuff looks great.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, what about film as well? There's a resurgence in film usage. You're seeing some productions being quite happy to, say, Mission Impossible. They'll shoot the bulk of it on film, but then they swap to digital for the tougher scenes, the helicopters,
night stuff.
Yeah, night stuff,
the underwater
that sort of thing. Again, is that an aesthetic thing? Is there a need for it?
Oh, you know what? I love film. I love film. I designed a number of film cameras. They're still my favorite cameras. But I think the infrastructure for film is crumbling.
This is the problem. Yeah,
that's the problem, and it's getting more difficult to shoot film. Now, I think we're always going to have some people who are going to insist on shooting film. Yeah. But, I mean, for us, quite frankly, in 2008, people stopped buying film cameras. That's when the switch came for us. And that's when we really and seriously pursued the Alexa. Then 2010, the Alexa came out, and we really haven't been selling any film cameras since then. Every once in a while, there's an insurance case, but that's really been it. So for us, this has been over for a long time.
Really, yeah. And I guess that it really is those productions, you know, Tarantino is the one who's always used an example with when he went back to film for The Hateful Eight or something, you know, but that wasn't literally a museum piece that he brought out to.
And it looks great. And I saw Dunkirk recently, and that looked fantastic. But, you know, how many productions like that are there?
No, exactly. There's not, no. And, you know, from the harder edge commercial side of the business, commercials, they want the look, but they don't there's no need to do that.
No, there's
heritage.
no need,
there's no
yeah,
heritage
there's no
assignment,
need to go
actually,
film,
is there?
And
No.
I also think now that we're going towards HDR, I think in HDR we're going to see some of the weaknesses of film, especially in the dark areas of the part where digital is simply better.
Yeah.
Digital brings out more image detail in the dark areas of the image, and with HDR that just gives you a wider palette. So I think film is slowly diminishing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever going to go fully away, but for us it's not relevant anymore at all.
No. And these kind of shows for you, are these the most important part of meeting your customer, when you get, all the people from the industry here, or is it more a case of people come to you individually because they want to test a particular piece?
All of it. I mean, we go to these shows, and when I go to these shows, I usually come a couple days earlier. Like I spent all day yesterday traveling around London, visiting sets, talking to DPs, asking them what they like, what they don't like. Then I talk to a lot of people here at the show, gather some feedback. But I also will do trips, just traveling around the world, visiting sets, independent of trade shows. And then we also have people coming visiting us in Munich, and we'll give them the tour, the factory tour, and we'll sit down with them and ask them, what do you like, what don't you like, what can we do to improve your life on the set? And all of that then goes into the next product.
Right, yeah. And it strikes me that there's quite a lot of brand loyalty with ARRI. You seem to get people that, love the Alexa Mini, say, your cameras seem to fit into particular niches that have a almost fanatical following. Do you see that?
Yes, I totally see that, and I think part of that is because we have something similar within the company.
Right.
As a product manager, I love cameras. I want to build the best camera I can for the customer. But I am sometimes the one who has to stop the engineers and say, yes, this would be better, but it would also be astronomically more expensive. So let's just drop it down one little notch to make something people can actually afford. So our engineers, they're very, very passionate about the camera, and we want to make the best tool for the people. And we sometimes struggle to make sure, we also have to make sure people can afford it. We got to make sure we make money. So I think that's the focus of ARRI. And I think you see that in the products, and then the people on the set who see it, they see that as well. They're out in the Arctic, they're on the Amazon, and the camera still works because it's slightly over-engineered. I think that's the difference.
That's the thing that strikes me, that level of engineering, even in the simplest, like the matte boxes, the LMB for the 6x6, whatever it was, they just, it's all engineered so well, it just folds down perfectly, and that's an expression of what goes on with the cameras.
If you look at the temperature range of our cameras, everything we make is specified -20 to +50 degrees Celsius. Now, if you look at everybody else, they're 0 to +40. And the reason is, I can tell you the reason is, if you have a catalog of components, electronic components, you have 200 pages of stuff that goes 0 to +40, and then 3 pages in the back of slightly more expensive stuff that goes -20 to +50. But that's the stuff that we then use for our camera. That's why it works in the Arctic and the Amazon, why it's a reliable tool that DP needs on the set.
Yeah. I mean, you say over-engineering, but it's not really over-engineering, is it?
No, it's application-specific engineering. Yeah, because we know people are going to go to the Arctic. So we want to make sure the camera performs properly there. And we test it, which is no fun. You're testing a camera with the climate change at -20, no fun at all.
No. How long do you test it for? I mean, how long does it have to...
Well, during the development process, we constantly test all the individual components, then we test the prototypes in the climate chamber, high humidity, low humidity, hot, cold, various combinations thereof. We also have an industrial paint shaker, and we will shake the cameras to bits to see how long they withstand something like that. And then every camera we build also will get tested, high temperature, low temperature, and it goes on the paint shaker. And because if anything fails, it'll fail usually in the first week of usage. So we try to simulate a week of usage of a camera in a truck going over cobblestone streets in the Arctic and the Amazon. And so all the cameras that get through this, those are the cameras we then sell. We know they will not have any failure in the first week. And that's every camera we sell.
That's fantastic. So how long does it take to bring a camera to market then? And where do you start with that? I mean, like you said, you've designed film cameras in the past. I mean, there's a particular gap in your product range, or there's a new opportunity in the market. You decide you're going to fill that. How long can you get?
It depends how many components we already have. You know, we're at this
Right.
point, at the point where we have some components we can reuse. For instance, the sensor for the Alexa LF is a different version of the sensor for the Alexa 65.
Ah, right, okay.
Which
yeah,
is a different
so
version of the sensor in the Alexa Mini, which was a different version of the sensor.
Yeah.
So, you know, we do these little baby steps, and then we use that in other products. And the boards we developed for the 65 were also used in the SXT, were also used in the Alexa LF. And then each time we improve that, and we make it slightly better, a little more processing power. So it's very difficult to say, but normally I would say it takes maybe 2 years to develop a new camera.
Yeah. Yes. Which, you know, isn't that long really when you think about the amount of technology that goes into one of
The
these.
sensors tend to take longer, actually.
Yeah.
So that I think that's the thing that's the difficult bit, the sensor development, because it's voodoo to a certain extent.
Well, yes. But do you find that DOPs, you know, they're busy people, so for them, you know, say you're shooting the feature, you could have 4 or 5 months out of that, then you come back to go on to your next project, technology's changing the time, so for them the testing process is getting more and more important, isn't it? Choosing the right kit.
And I love that about this industry, that what ads we put in the papers isn't actually that important.
No.
Because any product we make, before the next show, the DP will do some very thorough testing.
Yeah.
And they won't believe anything I say as a manufacturer, and they shouldn't.
No.
But they do their testing, and then they find the best product. The product gives them the best image, and then they go shoot with that.
Yeah.
And that makes this, to a certain extent, a very honest industry.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which is so refreshing, actually, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So any secret developments under the radar that you could just absent-mindedly tell us what's going on?
Well, there are lots of secret developments going on, but I'm afraid I can't
Yeah,
say anything right now.
I thought I'd try.
It's worth a try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks for spending the time. It's good to
You're
meet
very
you,
welcome.
and I'm sure we'll talk to you at one of the shows coming up in the future.
Probably NAB.
Yes, definitely.
All right, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good to meet.
Thank you.